It is 6:03 p.m. We are now entering the Charlton Board of Health meeting. In attendance, we have a full board, as well as Jim Philbrook, Department Head, Health Inspector. Okay, on the agenda, Jim, should we start off with the private well regulations?
Sure, and we have those right in front of you, the changes you requested. There's a copy for everyone.
Okay.
And it should give a little note of what the yellow indicates and what the red would be that what you requested for our regulations, so we can.
That's for the decommissioning?
Yep.
Okay. And what was, all right, the red is addition.
Yep.
So the well must be detached from the existing dwelling in the pump pulled. The owner may keep the pump.
Yep.
Okay. That's not a big deal. And then the yellow is to be removed.
Yes.
All right, so we're going to remove, what we're going to keep in the regs is going to say, wells shall be plugged with neat cement grout. Period. Sand, cement, concrete, or bentonite grout. So that's going to be removed. With the wording right there, should the period go after neat cement
Yes.
and
So
not
make
the
any-
word grout?
If you want to make the changes and vote on it, it will be done that way.
Okay, so Willie and John, with the grout, I don't know why they're gonna have that word in there. So we're talking right here where it says, wells should be plugged with neat cement grout, okay? I think we should remove the word grout, and after neat cement, that's it. The thing is, with the grout, I don't want it to get confused
Right.
and opened up another can of worms.
It's just neat cement. It's not bentonite grout. It's not sand cement grout.
Right.
So should these words?
So these are,
This is all coming out.
Those
that's
coming
coming
out.
out.
Okay, good.
And any changes you make there, we'll make it to the, in our next meeting, we'll have a copy of the whole well regulations for the board to sign, and we'll have an original copy that it'll keep and won't leave.
Okay.
So we
Okay.
can get rid of all the other ones, and we'll have a neat original copy of the changes noted, and have all the board members sign it, and that way we don't have any issues later that, because we have 3 different copies now.
Mhm.
And if you grab one and not the other, some will say
Yeah.
bentonite, and then
Yeah.
it's crossed out and said do not use, so it's tough to enforce that way.
So this. Okay, I'm sorry. You got it. That's what I want to make sure.
Yeah.
That word is coming out. Any reference to grout?
Correct.
It's
Neat
just
cement, period.
Neat cement.
period.
Yep.
And the only thing about the neat cement is there's no stone mixed in with it.
Correct.
It's cement without
Yep.
any aggregate. So now the next thing is, it says regardless of the type used, the grout. So here's your copy too, Jim. So I'm in agreement too with eliminating the words regardless of the type used, because there's only going to be one type and it's going to be neat cement. So that's
Yep.
goes hand in hand with that.
So you don't want grout in there either, right? It says the grout, you want that removed?
We should change it to the neat cement.
Yeah,
Okay.
You agree?
I agree.
Yeah. Will, you good with that?
Yep.
All right. So now just the heading on these 4 should say the neat cement. I don't have a problem with the next 4 line items. Just basically gives procedure on how to do it. Basically he's saying it's going through a pipe from the bottom of the well up. Shall remain a homogeneous fluid when applied to the subsurface rather than disgrading by gravity into a two-phase substance. So basically what line item number 2 is saying, shall remain as a homogeneous fluid, sorry, I'm destroying that, thank you.
Not a word you use every day.
Not at all. And anyways, rather than this aggravating by gravity into a two-phase substance. What it's saying is, once you start to fill it, it goes all the way. Don't stop halfway and then do a second layer to it. It's one fluid, fill it up. So I'm fine with that. Shall be resistant to chemical and physical deterioration, that's the whole purpose of putting it in, and shall not leach chemicals, either organic or inorganic, that would adversely affect the quality of the groundwater when it's applied. So, yeah, that's just, I have no problem with those next 4 line items. So, we'll change that, the little heading on it, and then we'll just call it the neat cement. Now down, the next change, the top of the seal shall be comprised of a concrete slab above the top plug of the well boring. This concrete slab shall be at least 6 inches thick and shall be at least 2 feet greater in diameter than the well casing before the borehole. We already made a vote on that last meeting that that's going to go away, so I'm just going to exit off here. Okay, and then now adding to the well reg, the well must be detached from the existing dwelling and the pump pulled. The owner may keep the pump. That's been common practice anyways. It's pretty much the only way to do it, but now it's in the writing and I'm fine with that. So this is all good for the decommissioning
Okay.
portion of it. Willie, you good with that?
That's good, yeah.
John,
Yes.
do you want to make a motion to accept the amended well regs
I'll make a motion to accept the amendment of the well regs. You just want to
for the decommissioning portion?
decommission for
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Jim, I
Can you
just made
make
that.
that copy?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can keep that. In addition to the decommissioning, I wanted to bring up about what happens when there's a hit on gross alpha. So basically, what happens now, Jim, did you say it was 15, the limit of gross alpha?
See, I actually had to call the DEP today to ask that. There's a calculation that is adapted to that, which you have to calculate out.
Mm-hmm.
But that is a question of gross alpha because we talked about the 228, 226,
Mhm.
and that we came across it. And it wasn't even your problem that you called me about.
Mhm.
It was totally separate, but it was totally familiar.
Yep.
So Maria Stone called me today from the DEP, and we discussed it, and she went through it all with me, so we know exactly what to tell. She said in any case that it would require him to have a filter, but it was the uranium that was high, at the total uranium at the bottom that was high, but the 228, 226 wasn't the issue, the gross alpha, it was the uranium.
Okay.
So.
So, for our well rigs that we currently have,
Mm-hmm.
once the gross alpha gets over a certain amount, that's when we require either further testing and filtration systems.
Correct.
Do you know what that number is?
That's
It's
right.
either 5 or 15. I thought it was 5, but then we talked about it and you said it was 15.
I think they're right. We just reviewed them. They're on our desk.
So in any event, whatever the number is that we've been going by, I'm fine with that. But what happens is our well regs say if your gross alpha is over X, you must test for uranium 226 and 228, which I'm still fine with doing. I don't have a problem with that portion of it. But what's happened is sometimes people have been putting in filtration systems, and it's eliminating the gross alpha. It's reducing the gross alpha to a safe drinking limit. So the question is, if someone decides to spend the money towards the test, are we going to accept the latest water result? So in the past, regardless if somebody put in a filtration system, point is plain and simple. If you have gross alpha in exceedance, you must test for 226, 228 uranium. What I'm saying and what we've been going for the last 3, 4, 5 years is you go, if you so choose, you can go by the most current test. So if somebody says, hey, you have high gross alpha, well, you know what? I'm going to put a filtration system in and then have it retested. If the person wants to do that and the tests come back below, not in exceedance, is that fine? And that's what I'm trying to avoid is ultimately what's happened is it's we made them test regardless. They put in a filtration system. They spend the money on the test. They put the filtration system in, they spent the money on the water test for no good reason. So by going by the current test, the difference is if the current test might be after the filtration system is in. That's the difference. Before, regardless if you're going to put a filtration system in or not, we're going to make you test for 226 and 228. The reason they did that was because it was to steer the filtration system experts so they would know what type of filtration system would best suit that water. And that's that. We had a big meeting with the state over that and everything. And ultimately, what we never really got to the bottom of it. It's up to our board to do what we want, but what was said is, okay, so just say you have a high 226, they would put the filtration system, they change it with like these mixed bed systems, and they might put one product higher in there. They would chemically alter the filtration systems to treat that water the best. But what happened was, after discussing it, then we said, okay, but as we all know, water changes, so what water you have this quarter might not be the same water you have next quarter. And then it could actually work against you because now you're focusing on 226 and that's come and gone. Now you actually have an arsenic issue or something. So what we've done is I'm trying to mandate that we make the people test for 226 and 228. If they want to and they have someone to do a filtration system and that's recommended to them and they want to do it, we're all for it, not a problem, but it just seems pointless to make somebody spend the money on the testing when they know that ultimately they're going to put in a filtration system. That's what ended up happening on, there was a case on Osgood Road. They had, it was one of them, like 228 was through the roof. He said right off the bat they're putting in a filtration system. The 226 to 228 is a byproduct, and uranium is a byproduct of gross alpha. So if you don't have gross alpha, then you don't have uranium in the 226 to 228. So that's where the gross alpha comes into play. So if you put in a filtration system and it reduces your gross alpha, we know that 226 and 228 are not going to exist. That's, I don't know if I explained it right, but
That's how are we gonna read that on new regs? How are we gonna say it?
well, I think the way the reg says now, it says you must test if your gross alpha is
Over 5.
over 5. I thought it was 5. If your gross alpha is over 5, then you must test for radium 226 and radium 228. And that's what I'm trying to talk about, because if the gross alpha is over 5, then you must test for that. So what I'm saying is, that's fine, but if you're, the question came down to which test do you go by? Do you go by the original test, or can you retest and go by that? That's what we were saying. So if someone gets their water tested for the first time, we were making them test for this. And then people were saying, coming into us and saying, okay, let's assume you make me spend this money, and yeah, you know what, my radium 228 came in high, right? Now what? We're going to make you put a filtration system in because to treat it. He's saying, why make me spend the money on that? I'm going to put the filtration system in. Let's put the filtration system in, and then we just test for gross alpha again.
Afterwards.
So that's where this whole thing has been coming from.
That's the way we should set it up.
And that's what we've been doing, but it hasn't technically been changed in the well regs.
You're
I
right.
think we should change it.
And that's where we should clear them up
Now
so we have
it's
a good
all-
copy.
If somebody comes in and asks for this and asks for that, we got the regs the way we got it now.
So,
So how you want to word it?
okay.
Because the test we got today from like Park to Show was a second test. It came back identical as high, but he paid for 2 tests.
And they're not cheap.
They're not cheap. It's about an
$500
$800 or $500.
$500 to $800.
Yeah. So All right. One of the problems we had, and I'm not necessarily seeing it right here, Jim, but one of the problems we had was we were enforcing that it went by the original water test.
You're right. And it wasn't clear in there, but it was always what we had always been doing.
Had always been doing.
Past practice.
Following the initial water quality test for a new well, the board may require or recommend that the applicant or owner of the property on which the well is located to have the water tested periodically. The board may choose to require that a water quality test to be conducted prior to any time the property on which the well is located changes ownership. So that's just saying we may choose to require a well test. It's hard to tell when people are selling.
You don't know. It's hard to keep track and trace that and really enforce it.
But you know what? I don't have a problem with leaving that in there because
Protects us.
Yeah, it protects us, and it just leaves the door open
Mhm.
because if something comes up and we feel that water for a certain reason needs to be tested,
Gives you authority to say.
gives
go
you
ahead.
the authority. So I'm good with that. A certified person, the board's agent, or an employee of the certified lab performing the analysis is required to collect the water sample. So that's something we've had issues with.
Mhm.
We've had issues with that just recently, John, since you've been on the board. And what I'm saying is a certified person, the board's agent, or an employee of the certified lab performing the analysis is required to collect the water sample. I think we need to spend a little time on that right there and define who a certified person is, because right now we're allowing homeowners to do that, and that may not be the
No,
best
they
interest.
can go to anybody, they can go to.
I think it should be someone who's from a company that's a well company or whatever, or a testing company that comes out like Whitewater would collect the sample. Chain of custody is there.
Yeah. So what ultimately, and that's what we're trying to do is protect the chain of custody.
Yep.
So, it says a certified person, the board's agent, or an employee of a certified lab performing the analysis is required. So right there it says an employee of the certified lab. So I'm comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
A board's agent, so that's one of us. So I'm comfortable with that. So what if we made the language say we take out a certified person, the board's agent or an employee of a certified lab performing the analysis, or other approved by the board.
Take that out or add that?
Add that in.
Yeah.
Add in or other approved. So if they say, "Hey, I'm from such and such well company,"
Mhm.
we'd be good with it.
Absolutely.
Or if they say, "Hey, I'm from," because there's other companies out there that aren't well companies, but and they're not labs, but they do water quality. You know,
Exactly.
so it would give us, we say, well, who is it? And they say it's, well company XYZ. Okay, we're fine with that. But if they say, well, it's my brother, then we say, well, where's your brother work?
Yeah.
What's his qualification?
Well, that's the whole chain of custody
It's the
deal.
chain of custody is what we're trying to.
And we want to make sure we get an accurate collection of sample. Follow the chain of custody so it's an accurate sample.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's no good.
Yeah, because there's water quality companies out there that specialize in filtration systems, but they're not well drillers and they're not labs.
Right.
But yet they're,
Well, there's a lab that just had its certification taken away, and I sent it over to make sure we hadn't used them, right, John? ETR.
oh yeah.
Could we put on that, like, 2 or 3 labs that we know on that, to them to get a hold of?
We can't.
Like Whitewater or someone big like that down the road so that they know who to get a hold of.
Jim?
We can't, that would be a violation of the law. We can't pick and choose and we can't recommend.
But
We
the
could
average
give a
person-
list
the
of
average
approved.
person Can't find the
Yeah,
right
but it
person.
looks like we're playing favoritism.
Yep.
And we have to be very careful with these new laws that they have that
So-
show that I can't even recommend a well driller. I can't even recommend an installer. I show them the list that we have licensed, but we can't say, well, he's a good one.
Right.
Why can't we just show them a list then?
We did, we show them that list,
I mean,
and,
on the-
and Andrew will download a list for them of all the approved ones from the DEP. Usually we like to get the ones that are approved and licensed, like, we have to be careful, like ETR is, if we recommend them and they're on the list, we don't check that they've had their certification taken away, then, you know, some of the liability comes back to the board.
Right. That, or you could just say,
At the
go
time of
Google.
recommendation, is the person certified? We don't, it's hard, they will send out notification that the certification has been taken away for the lab, but, it's just like if they come in and say, hey, you know a good, installer, or we say, yeah, Willie Stevens Jr. is a great installer.
can't
Guess
say
what?
that.
You can't say that,
Right.
even though you'd like to, but we just show them the list of current licensed installers, and we give them a copy of that.
That are licensed.
It doesn't mean you can't come in and get your installer's license, and if Jim knows you and approves you and you can pass the test, then you can get it. And we have, I mean, that thing fills up by the end of the year.
So how about this? Because even though I'm good with it, it says or an employee of the certified lab performing. There's
think
really
so.
no need to have that in there either.
Nope.
So what if we kind of kept it simple and said, the board's agent, which is
Yep.
you,
Yep.
or any of us could act as an agent, really,
Absolutely. Yep.
or persons approved by the board. Done.
Good.
So if they go, well, I work at a certified lab. Okay, well then we're
Because I
we're good
collect
with
water
that.
samples for the beaches. I used to collect them all the
Yeah.
time.
So
I had
did
to
me.
fill out a chain. He's done it for me. You got to fill out a chain of custody. You got to collect it. Very expensive. Very, very expensive. But certainly, yeah, you're right. Agent, I think that needs to be cleared up. You're right.
So the board's agent or persons approved by the board. You guys have a thought or
No,
add or take away from that or put to it or?
No, I like the simple aspect.
And I think
But
once we
just
clear these
want
up, we'll
common
send them out
sense
so
for the
people
average
know.
person can know what to call, you know what I mean?
We'll
The
give-
average person says, oh, I got somebody I know at work.
We try and help out anyone. If they come in, sit down, we'll even get them online and look under the
There you
DP
go.
website.
Sure.
Here you go. Take a number down.
John's out there.
You raising your hand?
John has something to say. I'm shocked.
ahead, John.
I'll take that.
Go ahead, sure.
I would only recommend authorized by the board, not certified, because that sounds like a procedure to go
Yeah.
through.
I said approved.
Oh, you did? Okay,
Approved.
approved. Yeah, I think I heard certified
Approved by the
before,
board.
so approved's better or authorized, yeah.
We were talking about the certified lab.
Yeah, they're certified. A
No, that's
certified
where
lab, yeah.
that's where we were
Oh, okay.
hearing it. So as it reads now, though, it says the board's agent or persons approved by the board. If you guys want to throw in authorized, I'm good with that. I don't know one's different than the other.
I think approved. As long as you have approval, we can make sure they're authorized in any way.
Okay.
You know, where they have for credentials, you know?
Yeah, it's the same. So, but you did hear certified.
I heard somewhere, yeah.
Okay. The Board of Health reserves the right to require monitoring for pesticides and PCBs and herbicides in certain situations. Good with that. Deed restriction is placed on the property if any primary contaminants require a filter system. A deed restriction can be obtained from the Board of Health office or off the Board of Health website. I don't have any problem with the deed restriction. I think they're very important. All primary contaminants above the MCL must be filtered out and the well retested once the filter system is installed. So that's fine.
Should it be on there, or if they get the filter in there, it should be changed filters so often? The average person forgets about it, you know?
So what we could do is we could write in caps, especially if you give these out to
Change
people.
filters as needed.
Or we could just put in big capital letters, recommendation, please change filters per manufacturer's specification.
That's even, yeah. Yeah, that should be. Some specification may be different than other ones. Some may last longer, some may be more expensive. Some systems are different, so.
Because we'd never be able to police it, but we
No,
could put big
no.
letters, recommendation.
Recommendation, because the average person, oh, my water's all right, I got a filter system. 10 years from now, I never cleaned it, and they're just drinking it, you know what I mean? It should be,
They're not drinking it well.
no, but just something.
Did you guys get that straightened out?
No. Well, I mean, we're waiting to hear back from
I haven't seen
Ready this-
anything other than
Waiting
your
for the
response.
lab.
Yeah.
They're waiting on the
Matt
lab.
They sent
Wagner's.
it early this week, so.
Sent early this week.
Mhm.
I told him I need it yesterday. He said, I stuttered a little. He said, I'll get it to you, Jim. I said, I don't get it to me, get it to the weddings. Please I'll take a copy for sure, but
If tomorrow's Wednesday, doesn't that mean it's beyond early? We're now mid?
Depends if you get it at before noon time, right?
It's still mid.
We know.
All right, refer to manufacturers' recommendations. Gonna go over here. For maintenance, procedures, and follow them. Is that what, you good with that?
Yes.
So, John, you good with that? It says recommendation, refer to manufacturer's recommendation for maintenance procedures and follow them. Does that sound all right to anybody?
That way you're covered for
follow them
not
as
only
directed.
filters, but, yeah, anything that they would wanna put in there, not just the filtration, I'm sure there's other things.
Sure, everything should be followed by the manufacturer's
Right.
instructions. Even
Yeah.
your smoke and CO follow
Mhm.
manufacturer's instructions for installation.
So it says for maintenance procedures and follow them as directed.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's gonna be an ad. All right, installing a filter system for secondary contaminants is at the discretion of the homeowner. So do we have a list of primary and secondary? Like iron, that would be a secondary?
It's in our well regs. It's listed in there, but it's certainly not going. If you wanted and you didn't like it, you could add your own in.
Right,
It's really not going to hurt you,
right,
but you
Like
don't like the
iron's
color.
on, right?
It turns orange.
yeah.
That's what I got in my well. I got a big system. And still I gotta flush every once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
And I got about 2 bags of salt every 2 weeks. And if I don't, you turn the water on, it turns reddish. You go back, flush it again.
Iron deposits in the ground have been mistaken for oil spills for many, many years because they have that just color to them, and they almost have a sheen. So
I just want to clarify this, what we're doing here for that extra testing.
the whole regs are right here too. Copy. Let's see if I'm looking there at the iron.
So it says if the gross alpha is over 15, then you must test for uranium. If the gross alpha is over 5, then you must test for radium-226 and radium-228.
Unless you get a filtration system, right? Or no?
Well, right. Because a filtration system is going to,
Reduce the gross alpha,
right,
which will in turn reduce 226 and 228.
right. So how do we word that?
I think you just have to put in there right after that.
If the gross alpha is over 5, then you must test for radium-226 and 228.
Unless you have a filtration system installed.
Or-
That is designed to reduce
Or
gross alpha.
opt to install the
There
filtration
you go.
system.
Yeah.
Is that,
That sounds all right.
or opt to install filtration system. That, I don't wanna say mitigates it, but I wanna say reduces it above 5. That reduces it to,
An acceptable level,
yeah, the, below the, MS.
below the threshold,
Yeah, what is it called?
The five.
MSW, isn't it?
pico, whatever's.
MCL. All right. If the gross alpha is over 5, then you must test for radium-226 and radium-228, or opt to install a filtration system that reduces it to below the MCL of 5.
The iron's right there. It's 0.3 MgO.
For what? Iron?
Yep.
So, John said it, and I want to repeat it, Jim, just
Go
to
ahead.
see if you have any input
Yep.
too, or Willie. If the gross alpha is over 5, then you must test for radium-226, radium-228, or opt to install a filtration system that reduces it to below the MCL of 5.
And what about the uranium that's in there?
So I think we would sister that. If the gross alpha is over 15, then you must test for uranium, or opt to install a filtration system that reduces it to below the MCL of 15.
Good.
We just sister it.
It
in
was
there.
Paula Karen that I spoke today. I think I said Muriel,
Yeah.
but it was Paula
Paul,
Karen,
yeah.
and that's what she recommended. So anytime, and that's what we discussed. There's a calculation in there, but she said that would probably take care of it because she went over every single one with me. But it's she knows what she's doing. But even if you call well companies, sometimes they really don't know the calculations out. So
I'm going to add to that just a little bit, and if it's too much, then just say it. But or opt to install a filtration system that reduces it to below the MCL of 5 and retest.
yeah.
Is that good? Just
Mhm.
retest.
To be honest, that's what the builders want to do now. They just want to come in, get a deed restriction, and test after.
Yep.
Because it saves them time, and it saves them money.
Saves them money, sure.
So,
$500 to $800.
Which they can be putting towards the
Was-
filtration
yeah.
system. They still
You're right.
spend it, but
still spend it.
Do you just wanna say MCL and not say a number in case the MCL changes?
Well, that's what I was thinking about, but the only
Could change, right?
no, yeah, but you know what? And I thought it through because I did think that, but then we're gonna have to change the whole reg because the first part of it says if the gross alpha is over 5.
Yeah.
So if the MCL changes, that's gonna change anyway.
Would have to change the regulations because we have to meet the DEP standard
So
anyway.
is there an MCL for gross alpha?
Yes.
So if you could say if the gross alpha
15.
is over the MCL, you don't have to say 5, right?
It is 15 here.
So 15 over there.
Yeah. But it's PCIL. It's different. It's 5 because it's M. That's what she explained to me today. It's 15 because if you look over here, it says PCI/L. But if you look over here, it says 5 PCIL. So I don't.
All right. So
There's
listen.
a mistake here somewhere.
All right. Well, what I'd like to do, I'm going to take MCL out because I'm the one that said MCL. On the well reg, it says PCI/L.
Oh, here. This is why. If the gross alpha is over 15, then you test for uranium. If it's over 5, then you test for 228, 226. There's the discrepancy.
Yeah, but they're calling it PCIL, not
Yes. You're right.
not MCL.
You're right.
So I think we should keep the language the same as PCIL.
We should, because there's a calculation involved with that. She said it's time divided by 0.62 or something. I don't know. It's crazy. But we wrote it down. We're going to add it to our. We have our so-called Bible for the office. Now, when there's questions about it, if I'm not here, someone's not here, we're all going to follow the same standard.
Right, so you'll have the state regs.
Right in
The
there.
office,
So if someone
yeah.
asks, it's going to be easy to, in bold letters, that we open up the book, because Kim is new,
Yeah.
she's very good. But if she's not here for the last hour or 45 minutes, someone comes in, she can just open the book, and it's clearly stated in here. And we'll
Sure.
clean these all up and get a fresh copy.
I came in, I had a tester on Sunday. She did very well.
She's very smart.
I asked her son, she goes, I don't know. And she goes, let me look. And then less than a minute, she had it. So
That's what we want. We want to be consistent. I didn't want to get an answer from me, an answer from Andrea, and so we all want to get the same, give out the same answer.
So, what we did then, and to recap and for consideration of a vote,
Rewrite that all up and then go over it again, or we can do it now?
I think we'll present you with a clean copy for vote on it. You can make sure the changes will be highlighted, and then you can vote at the next meeting, sign it.
okay.
Similar to this, so we'll know.
Yeah, but we'll have a clean copy.
Yeah, clean copy.
With it, and then when you sign that copy, that's the one that's gonna stay in the office, and any copies that are made for anyone will be from that one that's
Okay.
signed and stamped, that it's by her, we'll have it notarized, and have it
Notarized.
signed, and that way that'll be the standard copy that we use.
So the changes that we did was on the gross alpha, if it's over the 5, then you must test for uranium-226, uranium-228, and we added, or opt to install a filtration system that reduces it to below the 5 PCI-L, and retest. We did the same thing for the gross alpha. If it's over 15, then you must test for uranium or opt to install a filtration system that reduces it below 15.CIL. Then we put in a recommendation talking about the filtration system that was already there, but our recommendation says refer to manufacturers recommended for maintenance procedures and follow them as directed. Then the last thing we did was we're talking about who's going to be taking water samples, and we made it change it to the board's agent or persons approved by the board. And what we did was we took out the language that says a certified person or an employee of a certified lab performing the analysis is required to collect the water sample. So now currently the new one's going to say the board's agent or persons approved by the board. And those are the changes that we made.
And we don't do nothing with this iron and all other stuff, right?
No.
That's standard,
Just
there's
leave
a,
it standard and that's it.
Yep. I'm good with those changes because that's what I was trying to accomplish with that redundancy of the testing.
so these are the primary ones, Willie, that would have to require, that would filtration, it would be these.
All right, so primary concern, arsenic, gross alpha, lead, and radon.
Yep.
Okay. If the above MCL is, if above the MCL, then a filter and a D restriction is required. Okay.
Okay, you okay with that?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
So can we make a motion now?
I'm fine with it.
We'll make a motion that we make up the regs like it is that you just went through,
Okay.
and make it up for everybody. I mean, this is gonna be, anybody comes in, them are the new regs, right?
Yep, you can make a motion to amend the regulations as noted by the chairman.
Right.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think that's a good,
So Jim, just before we sign the final and the notary,
We're gonna send it to you to review.
yep, and just keep this one with it too, so we can compare that that's what we said.
I'm
You
gonna,
got-
you got yellow markers, red markers,
I know.
pencil,
It
pen,
was-
cross
and I
out,
was looking for yellow.
erasers.
Oh, there was
Good
yellow.
gosh.
I was looking for it. Okay,
that's good.
on the agenda, water main project for H Foot Road, Berry Corner Road, and Eleanor Lane. I haven't heard a whole lot going on. I know you had the 90.
we had the 95%, which is the final meeting. They won't go and meet. It's going out to bid now.
When is the bid date? Do you know?
I think it's March 19th, but I have it. I'll send it to all the board members, so you'll know. And it's open. It's in Southbridge. The opening of the
The
bids
openings, yeah.
will be in Southbridge.
Where would somebody go to find that?
It's going to be on the Southbridge. You have to go into the town of Southbridge website, download the document bid specs, and they're sent back to the town of Southbridge to the town manager's office through that way. They're doing it electronically.
Okay. So just say there's somebody from Boston, how would the person from Boston know that this project is available?
It will go out in the papers.
In the papers?
Yes.
Okay.
It'll be placed in the newspapers.
How about that central register?
They're gonna do that too, but Southbridge is handling it, cause they're the ones that have borrowed the money
Mhm.
and basically overseeing the project, but I think that I'll let you know when they're gonna open the bids.
Okay.
But, it surely states in there that, they protected themselves a little bit, but they will fill with neat cement from the bottom to the top, had them change it again,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know it.
and they're going out to bid that way. But it's competitive bidding, they don't think there'll be an issue. If it goes over, then it'll come back to the board.
They changed, when they did the amendment after our meeting, they changed it to Bentonite.
Yeah, they did.
We said no Bentonite.
No. So, that issue, they don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
But then I said, as long as it doesn't go over they had allotted a certain amount, and they're trying to say, well, if it goes over that certain amount, then they would come back to the town of Charlton. I said, no. If it goes over the 10 million, I said, you're not making adjustments anywhere else. I said, you're gonna come in under budget, and you have an extra 400,000, you think you're gonna come to the town of Charlton and say that we need another 50, 80, 100,000 for the decommissioning of the wells? That's not the way it works. And I think you spoke to Mary Jude Pigsley. They're mainly concerned to stay under budget, not whether that we go over the allotted amount at that point, which was allotted for decommissioning,
Right.
which should be enough. But I said, no, 10 million. So if you need another 50,000 or 100, then you're gonna have to take it out of, because I'm sure that's gonna, through competitive bidding, they're gonna come in under. They always leave.
That'd be the same person that's putting a well line in, is gonna do the commission of the wells.
That'll go out, the main
Separate.
contractor will sub that out. And
Sub that.
Yeah.
It'll be in the main bid.
It's in the main bid, yeah. That's what it's allotted, they're gonna have to follow, that, but when it comes in, I mean, geez, if you wanted to make some money, buy yourself a truck and put a bid in, you can make an easy 400,000. I mean, it's not easy, I'm saying, but I've
Wouldn't be
seen
that
it.
hard.
It wouldn't be that hard, I mean,
No, it wouldn't.
Really? You up for it?
He can't, he's conflict.
No, I don't think I interest in it.
so, there are some issues on the roads on Eleanor Lane, how they're going to repave and how far they're going to go and everything, but they've been more than open to, even the town of Southbridge, to amend the changes. Ty and Bond, working with Cassandra Larochelle, we had to work on a few names, and as far as people signed up for the water, they didn't even own the house.
Yeah, I know.
So now I had to go hunt down, why would you sign if you didn't own the house? If you're renting it? Because we have to match up with the assessors. So some of it was because they inherited, it was in a trust, and now we have to wait for that and now they need an easement, which I worked on with an attorney for 5 Berry Corner Road, because there's actually a stormwater drain there that's collapsed, but it's under the power of our attorney in Charlton that handles that. The gentleman is the
Is
one that
that the one they
hitchhikes.
gotta go right under the driveway?
Yeah, and they're gonna take that whole driveway out, but it's gonna be better for him, he's gonna get the water connection, and the attorney is willing to work with Ty and Bond.
That's
So-
the one they were gonna let it go out to daylight?
Exactly, yep. So that needs to be corrected, so they don't have issues, so I think that's, but it looks good. I'll give you the confirmed dates when it's going out to bid, and when it's going to be, the bid opening will be in the town hall at town of Southbridge. And we'll know who it's awarded to.
So it's coming
I'll
up
give
in
you
the
same
next
thing.
week or so?
It's coming quick.
Going out quick, or the bids are coming back?
No, it's going out, but the
So
bids
it's
will
not
have,
out yet.
the
Okay.
bids will have a while to
You gotta
come
do
back.
30 days at least.
Yeah, I think it's in
Oh, so they're
of the
not,
next month.
the bids are being released on the 17th or
19th,
for
I
the
believe,
19th?
and then they have a 30-day period, then they'll have a date to open those up. In the low bid,
All sealed bids.
sealed bid,
Sealed.
and they're under the control of the administrative assistant to the town manager in Southbridge. So,
Good.
but the meeting's done, we're helping out with, right now Robin needed a list of anyone who had contamination, who was already hooked up, an issue because they can file for an abatement, so we've been working on those numbers a lot.
Mhm.
What's going on now, we're gonna hook up with Oxford? Or-
I don't, I don't know anything about that.
It's on the
I
paper.
saw that in the paper.
They did get a
They're
grant.
just- That's over
Long as
on
you- As long
the
as you
east
get
side
ten
of town.
thousand,
Yeah, 10,000 gallons.
a
That's
day.
nothing, that's 30 houses,
That-
max.
You know,
Yeah.
but it's coming right up 20 and hook right to ours. It'd be great. Oxford has got good water. Why not?
But the volume, they said they wouldn't go over it because they didn't wanna,
Right now.
they didn't wanna commit to anything
Yeah.
that would be a detriment to their water volume capability.
Well, I think they could probably be persuaded somehow.
Water is 90%
DP.
gravel. They got
Yeah.
really good water down there.
Mm.
I put a lot of systems in there, never have to bring this dirt in.
Oh, yeah.
It's all gravel. And that's good running it right straight now. They gotta connect around, you know, up that way. They should run one to Spencer.
Well, that was for the road salt, right?
Yeah.
That was
Quarter
primarily
keg,
what they were-
dads, they currently use, quarter kegs, and they're not able to use their kitchen at this
Yeah,
point.
but you know how much money they got for their system?
They did get quite a bit, yeah.
They got so much money, it's unreal, and they never use it, never put it in.
No, they've called about it because someone wants to buy the quarter keg. But I said, you don't speak to me about it, you have to call the DEP about any change in a system or treatment system is under the authority of the DEP. It's a public water supplier, so
They
you
got
have to
hundreds
get
of
approval.
Thousands for that, and they never put the system in.
So what do they have, salt water coming out of their
No, they
tanks?
just-
Well, the salt shed's right behind the quarter keg,
Yeah,
And the whole area around there.
so, but that
they-
line's,
They got the money to do it, and never put the system in. So now the water line's going through there, they can hook to it, and that's all.
yeah, well, we know who that is, and good for him, he's been fighting it for a long time.
Yeah.
But, so anyway, that project, like I said, we won't have another meeting on it till after or later, but, as far as the well decommissionings, they do have someone from Ty and Bond, but I said that I would have to inspect every single one to assure that it's in compliance with the Board of Health regulations, so, I would go myself and assure that it was closed in accordance to our regulations.
And they take pictures of each one of them.
They will, but I think
It's
if,
gonna be hard to,
Yeah.
they're all gonna look the same.
probably don't look the same, but I think if I
You're
at
gonna
least
stand
let them
there.
know that I'm not gonna stand there all day, but I'm certainly going to, when they're done one, call me, I'm gonna come by. And-
Yeah, or even if you're aware when they're doing one, you can,
While they're doing it,
sure.
you know.
have the freedom to.
I don't think we should allow them to do 15 wells and decide they're not doing it right and say, wait a minute, you know?
Mm.
So, just to assure that they're doing it in compliance, because we don't have, an engineer there, it's going to be Ty and Bond that's going to be
They should
overseeing.
call here when they start doing it.
We'll have to come here to get a
Permit
well
for each one.
decommissioning permit, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder how we can, how you can police that.
Yeah.
I'll just gonna show up.
Yeah, but
They're gonna have to let me know during the day that they're at this certain address, and they're gonna be going to these. They can only do so many per day, and
Yeah, it's gonna be the same
So-
company, right?
yeah,
That should be one of the requirements, if it's not too late, that Board of Health needs notification the day of decommissioning.
Yes.
I already told her that. She said, "Who's gonna be overseeing this?" I said, "I will on behalf of the board." You know, we can't afford to pay someone to go out and
Is that gonna be
inspect
all
each
right?
one. No, they know. They have no problem with it. I just won't give them a permit, you know.
And they can't start it without the permit, right?
Nope. They're gonna come in here wherever it is required to abide by the, it says that you will obtain a permit from the local board of health and follow it and fill with neat cement from top to bottom.
No grout, no bentonite.
Let's say they're putting it in and you come out sick or on vacation or something.
Oh, I would,
Send one of us out.
no, I would definitely let someone, no, I haven't been sick in a long time, but certainly,
No, I mean, anything could happen.
oh yeah, if I decide I need a vacation and go up to Matt's place, you know.
John's volunteering.
I'll do it.
John?
If someone doesn't wanna hook up and they have contamination, do they get this deed restriction you guys are talking about?
It's a good question. At this point, no. It's only for new construction.
Yep.
And what happens when they go to sell? You just gotta pass a regular water test, and if it's coming after the filter, or if it's good, and nobody really has to know anything?
That's a good point.
Casella, Tracy Markman called me, asked me that exact question.
I'm just anticipating getting asked by someone, so I just wanted to. Never mind.
Well, if we only know there's someone with a lot of contamination, now, don't our well regs address that, if they're gonna try and change hands, that we could require
Well,
a
if we
test.
knew when it was gonna change hands, we could require the testing, but the typical test doesn't test for
No.
a lot of that,
No,
or any of that.
any of that. A test for the VOCs, but,
No, actually, no. Not all.
no,
'Cause
they're.
I know somebody on H-Foot sold and said, I got a water test done and everything passed. I'm like, you have contamination. And he's like, water test passes, doesn't matter, I can sell it according to what the.
Well, that's the realtors are telling them,
I'm
no.
like, okay. I wouldn't do that.
Well, we had people buy a house with contamination and complain to me after that, why they didn't notify me.
It was
So
that
didn't you
house.
see the signs that were down the road when you bought the house? He said, no, my
Yes.
company bought
Take
it.
this.
Was it?
I'm all set.
So, just a question.
No, it's a good question, especially if there is contamination, but you know better than probably, certainly more than I do. But if there's somebody with, say, a mid-level contamination, you have folks that are in the area with that type of situation, and they're not gonna hook up to municipal water, do you know?
I think everybody.
Well,
on
the
list
D,
is
the
gonna hook
DE,
up.
everyone on the list that has it, but if the DEP feels that someone didn't hook up, they could take action. It's still under an RTN, it's still under an RTN number, they still have control. So say someone with the worst contamination there, after all this connections with water, decided they weren't gonna connect, the DEP would take action.
Okay.
They're not gonna allow it.
Well, the other concern is 5 and 10 and 20 years down the road, if that plume migrates further out, this board, we're all gonna be long gone probably, and I don't know.
But you still got the regs and you still have to go 500 feet from the next one,
Right.
around again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and this is gonna
By that
continue for how
time,
many
maybe,
years?
maybe half a three-quarters
You know what,
chunk
any,
of
it
water.
could happen to our own municipality that we have, you know.
Right.
Yeah, but the problem lies where we're testing for the wrong things.
Right.
Right.
That's what the problem is.
Like, after this closes, and it's gonna close as soon as the water lines are working, if that plume travels down 10 Schoolhouse, Hill Road, Sawmill Circle, which you would
They'll have
anticipate
sentinel wells, no, they're installing sentinel wells.
out there.
There'll be a sentinel well, and they're gonna use certain wells, like maybe you're on 74, they may ask to use her well as a testing area. They keep one of those wells for testing purposes to make sure it doesn't mitigate past. They just don't allow you to, DEP's not just say, okay, we're closed. They will still require testing to make sure it doesn't mitigate past that.
So
point.
what were you gonna say though, John?
When I brought this up to the DEP, that exact question, are you planning on keeping any of our wells as sentinel wells? We don't have the closure plan yet. I said, well, you have a year, and then all these are gonna be filled. And I'm sure a lot of people aren't gonna want you on their property drilling a sentinel well.
Well, I think it's gonna be the well that's there currently. There was talk about that, and I know
There was talk.
there was talk about keeping a well, and I think 74 Schoolhouse Road would be ideal, Sawmill Circle, further down that road. There's 2 wells there, there's one right next to the road that Tracy saw one day when she was parked there, and ready to take a right-hand turn.
It's my niece's place.
It's his niece's
That
place.
stone place right now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I will
So 2
bring
wells,
that up
one to
with
sell it to?
as long as the board, what do we have for plans when I speak to Mary Jude or
Mhm.
to Mark Baldy? What are the plans?
And ultimately, if we find that there's new contamination or the same contamination is spread, it starts all over
Completely.
with a new number now. So
That means,
I
new water
mean, the
lines.
residents on 10 Schoolhouse have been asking me, well, what about us? And I worry, how you gonna know if it ever gets there? And if they don't put sentinel wells up there in Sawmill Circle in different areas, because we
Yeah.
see how, I've
Sure.
never had it all around me, every property's had it.
I
So
know.
you can't just take one and say,
No.
we're monitoring it.
Right.
It's gotta be
No, and that, there has been discussion on that, and I will keep you updated in the board as far as what is the plan.
but that would fall under the closure.
Yes. There's still further discussion.
Yeah.
They're not just gonna say, okay, close it out and gone, we don't care, we're leaving.
So
Let the
what
town-
requirement does this board have as far as being involved in the closure plan and where Sentinel wells are gonna go to protect the residents in our town?
I don't know.
Are they mandated to come in here and show you the closure plan and have your approval?
I think that's a conversation that, the chairman or myself could have with Mary Jude, that what's the long-term plan here. I think that, speaking to Tracy, Casella might have some responsibility here because they're talking already about, she asked me the same exact question you asked, does the Charlton Board of Health have any plan on requiring someone who has contamination to decommission them if they choose not to? I said, not at this time. She said, okay, that's what I thought.
No, I know that, but I think, let me say it again. I would hope that the DEP is very thorough in approving a closure plan. If that answers the question.
I'll be reviewing it, and if it doesn't look like there's anything up there on those roads, I'll be in here.
Yeah. And I think, you know, like, I don't know if there's a comment period. But you know how the other things have had
I'd
that.
like to ask Jim McQuaid, I'm not sure if there is.
I don't know if they throw it out in like a draft copy and then see if there's feedback on it, because you're right about that. Because at some point, if, you know, there's a suggestion from anybody, you know, like that one, that would be worthwhile, so.
They've already made a plan where, not a plan, but they've always known that they may have to extend up that road, and there's gonna be a stub right there.
Oh, for water, yeah,
Yeah.
but now it's getting to, the main thing for me, and I'm sure it is for you guys, is to not let residents have contamination without them knowing about it, so that it can be remediated.
Oh. If there's someone on there that
that's
does.
the thing for me, I understand the water is being installed so that if they had to stub up that way and then.
But if you don't know it and what's in place to find out about
There
it,
has to
then.
be some kind of
Yeah.
quarterly monitoring going on, just like they do at the landfill, and they're monitoring wells, that monitor wells, sentinel wells out there,
Mhm.
to let them see if anything is migrating that way.
I'm sure there are. I think the question is, are they sufficient? There's gonna be wells. Is it
There's
gonna
none
be-
out there now, because when I check the monitoring well reports, there's nothing out there.
Hmm.
Nothing.
I think that's something
All
that
around the landfill.
they're gonna have to work on, and I think that's something that, DP is gonna require, but we'll monitor it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I would think, or I would hope DEP is on it, and I'm sure they are. DEP's been very, very good about it. I'm just,
They just, when it's a $10 million project that came along pretty quick.
yeah.
Seen we worked with ExxonMobil for, what, since 90s?
Still going on.
It's still going on, and this, you know, but the pump house has to get going, you know, the pumping station needs to get in there too, but they're not gonna wait, so.
Well, they got plenty of work to do right now without the pump station.
Yep.
Anyway, there's
Absolutely.
plenty to go.
They worked on our road, they have patches where the gas lines are, they
Yeah.
were there today.
They allowed them, yeah, they gave them permission to go in and dig. So, yeah, go ahead. They had to be there though.
Gonna be a lot of blasting up there.
Well, hammering.
A lot of these.
They're trying to hammer it.
Unless they get a machine like White's got.
Think it's something good.
Go up to the ledge.
Yeah?
Yep. Ira ran it.
Really?
It's unreal.
Hmm.
Just sit it down and just chew it up like you do dirt.
Hmm. Just goes right through it, huh?
Yep.
It'd be interesting to see how that.
He did it up country up there on a mine. You know, they went, you know, and he was unreal.
Really?
The thing was unreal. All right, as long as you dig it.
Huh.
But the only thing, when you come to a service now, you got solid leads, right? So you got, I don't know if they got a small machine to go without blasting or,
Oh, yeah.
this is a good size rig.
I see
But
what
they
you're
do
saying.
have it. They could get like Whitewater to do it, you know? They could go right up through there like a
I'm
joke.
sure they're gonna.
Get 'em.
I'm sure they would. Jim, H-foot road discussion? Anything else on that topic?
Yep.
Anybody else have anything on that? No? Okay, moving on then. We're gonna move to department head reports.
The budget, I have to go before FinCom on the 21st of this month at 6:45 PM. I think I spoke to you, Matt, if you're available, if you'd like to come with me, because I had to ask for quite a sum of money so we could mind our own landfill and make sure we do what the DEP is required. We ran out of money. We have $278 left. So Robin came in today, and then we discussed that, you know, I did put in for an allotment of money based upon, you know,
We've reviewed
Minimum.
those figures.